Easy is not with us this week for the Any Given Runday podcast, but I heard what he had to say about when the Christmas special. I'll keep my thoughts to myself right now on that one. But to everyone listening, I hope you guys had a great Christmas. One quote that's coming to mind right now is that your training isn't determined by what you did from Christmas to New Year's, from New Year's to Christmas. So whether you're enjoying the week off or whether you're training, I hope you're enjoying it regardless. And a serious thank you to everyone that's listened to the show throughout the year, that's shared the show on Instagram and everything else that goes with us, that's told us in different runs that they've enjoyed listening to the show. It's really, really cool to hear. And this episode, we're going to have a two-parter kind of clip show, different clips from throughout the year, coming up now on Thursday before we get back to getting the guests for the start of 2026 and everything that goes with it. So this week's episode, while it's not, I don't want to say the best clips from each episode, what we try to do is just keep different kind of clips to keep the episode flowing. So we're going to get a little bit on training, some funny stories from true running, and just some mad adventures from halfway across the world, and all comes into this one in particular. So with that being said, I'm just going to go straight into it for our clip show. These are some of the guests you would have heard from January to June of earlier this year. And thank you once again for listening throughout the year. Hope the training, everything else is going well, and enjoy this show.
As you cross through again, obviously China, there's some great stories. The cultural difference as you go from Europe into Greece, into Turkey, into the Baltic, all those kind of places you go, some are war-torn, some are considered no travel lists. As you look at a government website, they advise against travel. How did you feel as you crossed every border? Were the border guards looking at you going, where the fuck is this fella going? Do you know, were they just like, are you lost? Are you this? How did you find that cultural change that you cross a line and it's just like, wow, the rules have changed?
Yeah, I would have been the type of person that if they were waiting in line for a queue to get into the US or whatever country, my heart would be racing. And I think a lot of people are similar to that. You know, you're just thinking, I'm doing nothing wrong, but I am. And that's the kind of that's
like the
feeling
guard standing beside you in the chipper. Oh fuck!
Yeah.
What's he looking for?
You start thinking of everything.
Yeah. Does he know I said that about him?
Yeah, so I had them that kind of feeling for a lot of the border crossings. You know, the border crossings didn't really start until Turkey, but that was pretty easy. But you still would have that feeling. Same with Georgia and Armenia, and then Iran was the big one. And especially going that route, it was kind of, I never planned to go through Iran and Afghanistan. My route was always to get as far as Turkey, then Georgia, and go north of the Caspian Sea. I'm sorry, we don't have a map in front of us here, but north of the Caspian Sea through Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, which is like a safer route, but you're going through a long stretch of a desert, not as enjoyable. And as I went on, I met other cyclists going the other way who was passing, and they were pretty much saying they went through Iran, Afghanistan. They thought it was amazing. I think, you know, if you can go, go. And I thought, yeah, geez, these people went. My confidence grew as I got on, and I decided that I was going to go into Iran, even though it was, you know, kind of at war with Israel at the time. So to say when I was there, Iran is definitely my favorite country of the entire trip. But to say that I was not scared of my life the whole time I was there was an understatement. Like the nicest people I've ever met in my life, Iranians. And I think anyone that has been there would say the same, and anyone that's heard anything about there would definitely agree. Like, we might hear something different in the media. I'll not get into all that, but as I know from my own experience, you couldn't go a day without getting invited into a house, without getting a free meal. Incredible. And I think I should nearly tell the story here of I had one bad experience. In Iran, I was getting very trusting with the people there, and just get invited into every house. So one time I was cycling, it was I think 35, 40 degrees, and I was getting near 1 o'clock, and I was looking for some shade. So I seen one tree, and I was about to stop and hide under the tree for 2 hours, and this car pulls in right as I get to the tree. And it's this man who I just had an awful sense about. I would never have trusted him anywhere, but just for the fact I was tired, the tree was here, bit of shade. He got out of the car and he was like offering me food and drink, and he did offer me a drink, and I was like, okay, I'll take the drink. It was a little juice carton, but he actually injected something into the juice carton, and I was drugged. And straight away, as soon as I drank it, I knew something was wrong. I know my body fairly well, and I knew something was wrong. So I packed up all my stuff, got on the bike, and I cycled off. And I managed to find a place underneath the road I cycled on to hide from the sun. But I have an Insta360 camera, and I even like falling over. I had no motor skills. It was incredibly scary. It's foreign country, you're drugged, you don't know what's going on. The man actually comes back and he finds me, and he's fighting me and wrestling me, and he's looking at my wallet and some of the stuff off my bike, and he ends up getting my wallet. But in the meantime, as we were fighting, I got really injured my foot, and I got up to the road eventually after he left, and I car stop brought me to hospital, and I ended up having 7 stitches to get in my foot. Now, bear in mind, I'm an Irish citizen or a foreign citizen in Iran, and I'm in hospital. And I think the first thing that would happen with any sort of foreigner like this, especially in Iran, is, oh, well, he must be a spy. I got drug attacked, hospitalized, and queried as a spy for the next week in Iran, which was not the ideal situation. I drew a lot of attention to myself, and I became a little bit of a celebrity in the local area because there's no GDPR. The doctor actually put everything up on Instagram. Pictures of me drugged on the hospital bed. And I remember being in a coffee shop in the town I was in, and there was 2 girls laughing. And the guy I was with asked him, what are they laughing at? And he realized that they said that they reckon the doctor's Instagram story, and they asked for photos. Yeah.
Pretty scary ordeal. And I suppose it's like anything, isn't it? It's one experience that can paint a bad picture, but over how many kilometers and generosity and niceness, but you can eat that anywhere. And who's looking to do harm, looking to do something bad anywhere. But I suppose it's just unfortunate for you, having had such a good experience in a different culture, that you're always kind of on edge, because we're brought up knowing one thing, and then you get there and it's like, why are they inviting me into their house? They love me, like it's such a bizarre experience.
Yeah, no, massively. And then same with Afghanistan. You hear something else on the news with Afghanistan that you go there and no matter what, the Taliban will kill you. But I don't want to speak highly or good of the Taliban, because I don't agree with their laws, especially with women. But my God, was I treated well in Afghanistan? We'd be cycling for hours, and you go for 5 Taliban checkpoints every single day. But they're asking, have you water? They're quite pleasant with you. And everywhere I've been met with massive acts of kindness. And Muslim countries really escalate. That escalates tenfold. And in the media, we're definitely told something else.
Fergal, during all this, like hearing, I know if I was like, hey, Dad, let's cycle up to a checkpoint to the Taliban. He's watching the media, and I would think, okay, something's gonna happen here. And like, just doing my research in this episode, like your mom was on a podcast or a radio station up in Northwest and all the rest. At this stage, or at any stage during this trip, is there any family member or something going, hey Fergal, you got close there, I think it's time to pull the plug on this, you've done great, you've raised X amount of money, it's time to come home or get the flight to Australia and say, look, you dodged a bullet here? Did you have any? You must have had some sort of interactions at some stage at this point, or was everyone like, "Hey, keep on going, you're doing great"?
Yeah, it was a mix, I guess. Like before I left, I was saying, my family were obviously, I had to try and convince them. And one time, I was recording a promo video for this cycle, because I'm doing it for 2 charities. And my dad was watching me out in the back garden, set up a tent for the first time, because I'm not massive in camping or anything like that. First time ever setting up a tent. And I ended up breaking the tent, and it was borrowed, and I had to buy a new tent for the people I borrowed it off. As I was getting recorded, my dad was out the back watching me, and he had honestly tears going down his face. He like, how are you going to do this every single day for the next year plus? And like, he just couldn't imagine me doing it. And I think about a few days later, I brought my mom and my dad down to the local lake, Loch Allen. They're jumping into it often, and they think I'm crazy for doing it. But I brought them down, jumped into the lake, and I got out, and I was just telling them, like, how, like, do you think this is possible? And my dad would be like, no, I'd never jump in the lake. And I was like, well, like, do you think me cycling to Australia is possible? And he'd be like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's possible. And I said, but it's not possible if you're going to be negative about it. Like, you have to be positive about it. And it's hard enough for me. I'm having these nightmares. I'm having a hard time. I need you to, if you do have negative feelings about this, to be positive towards it. Like, don't even say it towards me. And my parents really took it on board. And from then on, they were really supportive. They weren't like, why are you doing this? They were like, more like, okay, you are doing this. So with that aside, like you're saying, when I got to Iran, when something like that happened, you kind of question a lot of stuff. The confidence was very low. I was, in hospital, drugged, attacked in a foreign country. I had Afghanistan looming ahead of me. I went through massive bike difficulty the weeks beforehand. You had all the reasons to quit if you wanted to. It never did come. The actual to decide to quit, like, I never even thought about it. It was always just to keep going. And I don't know, maybe that's a self-defense mechanism too, because like it's almost easier to keep going. You're so far into it, it's like, well, what's the point of me going back now? I may as well keep going. And I had to forget about, you had to forget about whatever, like you just had to think, what's next? And all I had was Afghanistan in front of me, and that's just got on my bike and kept going.
Becky, a lot of athletes who come on, they talk about identity when they're growing up because they're so heavily involved in sport. Some people get into triathlon early and they feel like triathlon is everything, and they make it to university, and sports sometimes, in the cruelty that it is, can make or break, and people kind of lose that sense of themselves. Was it scary to go from such successes in basketball and have a twin that's slightly better than you to then going to running and kind of finding
it was a
new,
different position there. It wasn't better. It was a different position. She's never said that.
Just to clarify, I'm going to clarify before you finish that sentence. She was a shooting guard and she was a better shooter.
I'm on your
but I was
sister's
a point guard and I have more skill. That's how I weighed up. She had like half. She was 6'6.5", and I was 5'6". No, she was 5'6.5", and I was 5'6".
Six, 6.5. No wonder why. And that's exactly why I'm her friend. 6'6". No, but so being the lesser twin, your sister's gonna love me for this one, but being the lesser twin and then moving into that identity thing, was that scary, or were you just so involved in so many sports growing up that didn't really make a difference? You knew you had the background from, because anyone who's played basketball knows end-to-end court is probably some of the hardest sport in the world. Like basketball for me physically was a very difficult one in school. I was never more tired than after a basketball game than most other field sports or anything else I did. What was it like then, taking that into running and trying to establish a new identity, as a lot of athletes have said in the younger years, it becomes part of you?
I think always in the back of my head was, gosh, was this a good decision to give up basketball? But I always did running alongside basketball. So I was always a dual athlete growing up. So I had some successes in running at national level, whether it was cross country or track anyway, but it was all at juvenile level. And they always say, like, I remember one of my coaches always said, it doesn't matter what you do when you're a junior. So basically what he was saying was, like, study hard, don't overtrain, eat well, don't get injured. And so basically what he's saying was, it matters when you're a senior. And it was tough jumping from the junior ranks to the senior ranks in running. And it was also tough doing the sport as just one sport. And it was the first time ever that I actually picked up an injury, because all of a sudden I had all this free time. And what do you want to do when you're that age with all that free time? I was throwing in extra runs here, there, and everywhere. And it's funny, it didn't actually make me a better athlete in the end. It made me an injured athlete in the end. And I suppose that was, now I still had some lovely, lovely times, lovely successes. And I suppose at that point when I got my first injury, I was like, gosh, what do I really want to do? And I was definitely made to be a long distance runner, but I just loved the track. So I got to the stage where I decided to change coach, actually rang up the coach of a different club team altogether than I was affiliated with. And he was happy to take me on to his track team. And so for 3 years, I trained on the track. And I suppose when you're in the track, it's more so about chasing PBs. Medals are great, but you're doing it for you. And I was trying to see like how fast I could run 800 in, how fast I could run the 1500 in. And they were probably, even though I didn't win as much at that level, and I was changing my identity from being a long distance runner to a track runner, it was the first time I realized I'm now doing sport because I absolutely love it. I'm not doing because someone wants me to win or there's an expectation on me to win. It was, I realized.
Or your sister is better.
Well, she actually started track running too. It was the first time I was just so excited to compete on the track. I was so excited to race. Whether I was going to win or not, it didn't matter. That didn't bother me. And I suppose at the same time, I was also doing a really challenging college course. So it kind of, you didn't have enough time to think, God, am I good at this sport? Should I go back to basketball? I was trying to juggle a full-time college course as well as trying to do 20 hours of training a week, I guess, you know?
How did you balance that? I couldn't even do one of them, let alone the other one. I was back in college. I blame Eric being a bad influence, but apart from that, like, how did you get the 20 hours of that and trying to balance your studies and everything else? Like, how did that work?
Do you know what? I think it was always innate from a young age, because once I stepped foot into secondary school, similar to wanting to win every race or every basketball competition I entered, I wanted to get top marks in my class as well. So I think by the time I got to college, I was only doing one sport. So to me, I was like, this must be really easy. And you know what? Actually, I do look back, and I look back at the guys doing triathlon in college, and I don't know how they do that. I think doing one sport is extremely manageable. Like, I was in college 9 to 5, so you did your run beforehand, got home from college, did your training. I suppose I probably did a lot of my major study or major kind of project or research work at the weekends when other people were probably out having a good time. But that was cool with me. I was in my element. You know, I was at my desk, feet up on the bed. To me, I was like, this is my recovery from running, and no better recovery. Do you know what I mean? And I think if I didn't have that, I'd be off gallivanting, doing whatnot, you know?
Did sport and getting into the with the competitive family, did that help you mature faster for this? Because I wish I had a head like that when I was in my early 20s. Also the skill and the athleticism and all the rest that goes with it. But like, I look back and I'm like, I was an idiot. One, my secondary school, none of these coaches went to any secondary school I went to. I tell you that much. My gym PE classes were up to the gate and back, and that took 45 minutes, even though it was only 100 meters down the road, and then you just played with a football like nothing. I'm like, where is this school? It's unbelievable.
We were spending about 20 hours a week drinking, Sean.
When she says shots, she means basketball shots. Russell's at the bar.
It was a 3-pointer on a Monday. Becky, it's phenomenal to have that. Like, I'd say, as a parent, your parents are looking at you going, there's something wrong with her. She really wants to study and do well. You're a parent's dream. But to echo Sean's question, where did that maturity come from, or was it just the love of sport?
I think having 5 of us, 5 siblings that were so close in age. Like, I had a brother that was 2 years ahead of me, a sister that was 4 years ahead of me, and a brother that was 2 years behind me in school. And my 2 brothers actually played rugby at a really high level, and one of them went to play professionally, actually, the younger brother. And I think it was just, this is what we did. I saw my brothers and sisters do it, and I was like, okay, I better do the same. This is how we roll. I think we weren't the norm, but we didn't know that at the time. So this is what I lived and breathed when I came home from school. Yeah, I think it's when you see it, you do. What's that quote again? I'm trying to think about it. The quote for women in sport: if you can't see it, you can't be it. And I was seeing it every single day. But you know what was so funny? My twin sister had said to me a while back, she was like, I would see you.
The better sister, get her name right.
I'll give her a name, Sarah. She's gonna love this. She's not a podcast person, so I think that bodes well for me. But I remember she said to me a while back, I would see we shared a bedroom, and she was like, I would see you up in the bedroom studying, and she'd be like, oh crap, now I have to go up and study too. Because once again, she was like, she's not gonna do better than me. So yeah, you know what? It was the norm in our house. We were trying to finish our homework or study as quick as possible for our poor parents to bring us to whatever sport we were doing that evening, you know? And they were amazing. Then they'd have the dinner ready for you. I pretend to my fiance that I can't cook, but I actually don't think I can cook because my parents took care of everything. You know, he even changed the bed sheets because I never did that growing up. I think I was spoiled. Like, they gave us every opportunity to, I think because we were doing well in school, they were so supportive. They were like, if you do well in school, we will get behind you 100% in sport. And it's just, this is the way it was.
If it was a competition to change those bed sheets, or if you were on one of those baking shows, I reckon you somehow managed to get competitive and win that thing from absolutely nothing as well.
Just the trick there. To be fair, like, people talk about spoiled, where like you were getting your hardship, your discipline, your everything from sport. And I suppose as parents, or maybe parents that I'm not one myself yet, but as parents listening, it's in terms of the education and the toughness and the discipline. Like, when you're performing at that level at junior ages and really staying dedicated and having consistency and education's going well, if all you have to do is, okay, I'll make the bed and I'll make sure they're fed, you know, like, it's a very small price to pay for kids you can see progressing in their careers. And I think sport is great for every kind of development, social development, personal development. And obviously you guys were doing that in buckets and spades. So I don't know, one person's that's not right is another person's that's not spoiled at all. That's phenomenal foundations for the future.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get my parents to listen to what you just said there, Eric.
Just that, though, nothing else. Just that little segment. That was only 20 seconds long, really. That was it.
But you know what? I even see it with my twin has 2 kids, so she's the only parent out of my siblings so far, and she's even like asking us, what sport should I get Quinn into? What sport should I get? She's got a boy and a girl. What sport would I get Freddie into? So her mindset is already going to, and she keeps saying to us, look, it doesn't matter if they're not the best, it doesn't matter. And we're like, yeah, right. But no, it's true. She just wants to, I think she saw I suppose the friends group, the kind of the pathway it put us on growing up. And so from the age of, her kids are 4 and 2, she's already like to my brothers, so as a man, what sport do you think Freddie should play, you know, so he gets on the right pathway growing up? And I think my parents just did that, you know. They still cook for us every Sunday night, and the other 4 aren't playing sport anymore.
Becky, what's your answer to that for a young parent? Because you could look back and go, obviously you had basketball and stuff, but you'd also look at it and go, maybe you got your hand-eye coordination from the table tennis and stuff you did, and you threw into gymnastics, and that had to help with the running. Would you throw, hypothetically, a kid into all sorts of sports and let it figure it out? Do you think some sports you need to have that discipline in? What would your approach be to that?
Yeah, I think that what I reflect on with my parents is there was never any pressure whatsoever. They actually had to sit us down at, I think we were 11 or 12, and say to us, you're doing a lot.
Yeah, narrow it down, would you?
Play's gotta pick Becky up at this time, but Sarah's down the road.
In the car, Sean, it was a minibus.
They were amazing. But I do think having kind of my foot in all those sports with absolutely no pressure whatsoever. The only pressure was to be in the car at the right time so that we weren't late for the sport. My dad is never late for anything. So that was the only thing. But I do think dipping your feet into every sport definitely gives you kind of that more holistic picture, so that when you're older and when it matters, that you have all this skill set, but you also have the strength, you've got the fast feet, but you've also got the plyometric power to be able to really go far in a chosen sport. And they gave us that opportunity.
And in your spare time, you do Ironmans as well, back then.
Yeah. Well, I went back to Ironman the last couple of years. I used to Ironman, as I said, before the kids were born. I used to love doing Ironman. I was always a big bike racer, so Ironman's in a natural progression when it became the hip, cool sport around 20 years ago. And just, I kind of fell out with them as my kids came along. And then 3 years ago now, we had a teammate of ours at Dublin Bay who died of brain tumor. And her memory then, probably 4 weeks later, I said, I'm going to do Ironman Copenhagen to his memory. And I jumped in. And I went for 11 hours. I was happy out. And then we did the following year again, no training again. Another teammate, Roy, said he'd do it with me this year. They just jumped in and, a little bit of swimming, a little bit of cycling. I said cycling's fun because I would use Swift, the stationary bike, as part of my running training anyway. We didn't get out running, or even though we did get out running, I Swift anyway. So cycling's still in my legs. The fact is, it's the swimming I just really have to get through. But yeah, jump in and then off we go. You seem shocked, lads. Is that okay?
Yeah, I bananas. How are you not injured? How are you able to run like 300 marathons like over a somewhat relatively short space of time? Consider it was only 52 weeks in the year. You'd have to do one straight for 6 years, and like, and then you're doing Ironmans in there. You've done trail runs. You've done 100K representing Ireland. How is the body feeling like over these last couple of years? Was there a point where it was like mileage to back, and you must have had too high a mileage if you're constantly racing all the time? And how did that work in the body?
But you know, yeah, well, we'll get to the last year now. You know what? My training miles were very small. It was like people always say, like, I would be the man that put maybe 35, 40 miles in a week. I would have done maybe, like, I'm very blessed to live in Hope, so I can do a trail run. And I reckon trail is worth, say, if you've done 10 on the 10K trail, it's worth 15 on your road. But I was always going race to race. So if I was doing a fast 5K this weekend, I'd done a fast 10K next weekend, but then the following week I was doing a marathon. There was always a marathon once a month. So basically, and I was always, so of them, I think like 90% are under 3 hours. You're always coming, you were either coming out of a marathon and you were in the recovery that week, or else you were going into a race. So for me, you're always kind of just tipping over. It didn't have to be. Like, I see people now that are doing training plans and they're doing 120 miles a week. Or I see lads that are going out and they're doing like long runs. They do like 20 to 30, sometimes doing 30 mile runs on a Sunday morning. Even for me now, it's like, that's crazy. Now I know they're getting the benefits of it and it's working for them, but I'm still going, I never had to do that. Like, and if I did, I would have been so much better. But yeah, I wasn't like, I was a building contractor as well. So all day long I was on my tools. When people say, yeah, I'm a control freak, if we're laying blocks together. Like I was the lad that was on the roof on with the camera, we put the roof on together. I was always wanted to be in the mix. My training during the day, core-wise and strength training, was building. And I said, just huge more. I felt if you're racing, you're always race fit. And I was always a stubborn enough asshole, egotistical enough asshole, that, you know, I'd make myself suffer more than you. If I seen you suffer, I knew I could suffer worse than you. I knew I could push myself harder than you. So I was always kind of, I said, best we've got that stupid mindset, might be a thick mindset. But injuries didn't, I was never, yeah, we all get little niggles, but I never, unless it was from running, there was never anything, like I broke my neck 6 years ago, I fell off a roof. But it was never a substantial from running that I got some major. Maybe now for a month with a tear in your calf or a hamstring or a hip issue, but it was never anything where I know people are out for 6 months or they've been out for a year from such high mileage. But no, I've been blessed in that regard that up until recently, that was never an issue.
When you look at when you got into running on that first marathon, and it started on a journey to lose weight, and now it's a journey of hundreds of marathons. We have Garmin's, we have Strava, we have training plans. Everyone's an expert. We've clowns doing podcasts. We've all sorts surrounded by running.
You talking Sean again?
Yeah, Sean is the clown. I didn't say clowns, just clown doing a podcast. What have you seen change in that kind of training? Have you seen more benefits in the technology coming into it, or is it getting too complicated, or is it more enjoyable now to have that extra bit of accountability?
I think there's many answers to that now. So the first one was, I used to use a Casio G-Shock. When I was doing up until maybe 5 years ago, I had a Casio G-Shock. And I was a 3-hour pacer, 3:10 pacer for Dublin, 3-hour pacer for Belfast, all the big marathons. And I'd be on a Casio G-Shock and we go, okay, that's 7:52. Okay, that's 15. And that's how I'd work out my miles. And I was at the relief saying, you need to get a Garmin because you need to be hitting the number. Because you can slow you off. Now you see the sign for 3 miles, you go, okay, now I know. And the Garmin kept you in check. I think, yes, it has been over. I think too many people, you see the training plans, you see them. You said to yourself, there's lads training out there like professional athletes. I don't know how to get, and there's lads there's people out there, yes, that say for every 10, they're getting these amazing plans and training like athletes. There's 2, maybe 1 of some of them that are doing great. It's probably even less. I'd say every 100, there's probably maybe 2 or 3 that actually get the benefits of being a professional athlete, and they're doing amazing. But it's not that guys putting so much effort in, they're not getting the benefit out of it. And they're not living, they're taken away from their own lives. The joy of life that they won't have a bar of chocolate. I eat chocolate all day long. I drink Diet Coke. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke. But at least junk food, I allow myself to live, and I always did even when I was racing it to a high level, I always let myself that snack box during the week. I always let myself that banana burger. I didn't stop myself. And I always drank Diet Coke and had maybe 7 or 8 bars of chocolate a day. But you see, lads now, they won't have a cup of tea after 7 o'clock. Or there's no milk. But they're going, lads, for all the effort you're putting in, you're not getting any better. You'd be better doing half the miles and living, and I'd say you probably be a minute slower than you are at the moment. And it is overcomplicated. As you said, there's plenty of guys out there with training plans and making training plans and they're idiots. But there's no way, there is guys and they're going, look, they're sending out, they're charging 40, 50 quid a month. And they're sending out plans, but it's one size fits all. They're not tailoring it. Everybody's getting the same plan being emailed to them on a Sunday. And they go, that just does not suit us. And people are just, so I said, it's not for me to say. If people come to me for, I do train people and I will tailor their plans. And I don't charge because I'm not interested in that. It's because they're usually with my running club and it's going, yeah, there you go. But there is guys out there that are clueless. There's an awful lot of very average runners out there telling people how to be great runners. Mate, call me wrong, call me an asshole, call me what you will. I don't think that's right either. I don't think there's guys out there who don't get out and run. Put plans out. If you haven't run a marathon, don't tell me how to run a marathon. But if you run a marathon, you've done it 5-6 hours, I will listen to you and I'll say, okay, you've been out there, Tom, you've done the same amount of miles in that race as I have. So you have some insight into it. But don't be telling me how to race my man. Look, I had a guy tell me how to do an Ironman. Like, not that I needed or was listening, but he was like, yeah, you'll get through that, no problem, you'll be fine. And I was going, like, this was a heavily obese guy. How do you know? how do you know it'll be fine? All right, no, yeah, but this is what you do with your swim, and this, and it's going. And when was the last Ironman or triathlon or race that you did? Oh no, I'm not into that now, but I know, I know we can do it, and this is what, forget it. But there's other people listening to people who aren't so sure themselves are listening to that rubbish because it might instill a little bit of confidence in them. But I just, for me personally, I think it's wrong.
In terms of kind of walking the walk and talking the talk, do you find then when it comes to building relationships with clients, having put yourself through so many different things and sticking to that consistent lifestyle, does that resonate more with them? Do you find a bigger benefit to that so that, in fact, doing these races helps your career hand in hand?
Absolutely.
And it's worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I'm a PT and a fitness coach. I coach in a semi-private gym near me here in Dunleary, and I have loads of clients. But like my clients are just through what I do. You know what I mean? Because they admire what I do. So that's how I get clients as well. It's great. Yeah.
You must have a lot of like-minded clients. Someone could look at what you, I mean, to put it at a level, probably a lot of people listen to the podcast, if they run a lot and someone doesn't run that much, they might say, hey, come run with me. And like, oh God, I'm not running with you because you're too fast and all that kind of crack. But does that translate to personal training as well for you sometimes in terms of, oh my God, she does 130K and there she is deadlifting this and that?
Yeah,
and
there is that side of it as well, because, some people in the classes be like, almost afraid to work with me sometimes because of the toughness. They're just them type of people. You have people that just want the easy training, the easy life, just come in, and then you have the other people that want more, and you know what I mean? They're probably my kind of people.
That's fair.
You attract them. Yeah, exactly.
So at what point did sea swimming become a staple? Because obviously Laois isn't known for its sea swimming. So was it moving up to Dublin, or was it your time away in Canada with the glacial water?
Yeah,
when did it become a staple?
It was after the lockdown, to be honest. We were all just sitting home, and I never used sea dipping or cold immersion for recovery. It was something to do after lockdown. We were all off work. We were allowed to travel again. I remember the first time we come up, my sister and her partner come up, and we got into the ocean. We loved it. So we kept coming up regularly because we had not much else to do. It was something to do. And when we went back to work then, I was working in Offaly at the time, and I was like, how am I going to get up for a sea dip and go back to work? Because I was hooked on it at that stage. It's quite addictive. Because I kept traveling up, I was meeting people. There's a community at the 40 foot, like you're always going to meet someone you know. And I got friendly with quite a bunch of people up there, and they're like, Niamh, you need to move up. So I was like, okay, maybe I will. So I was like, I just took the bullet and I started looking for jobs up here. I found the job, but I have somewhere to live, so I was commuting for a while. I was like, am I really doing this? Is it really worth it? And then, I got a job near the ocean, and then I was living in Terranure then when I first moved up. And then it just all worked out. So now I work in Dunleary, live in Dunleary, live across from the 44, swim every morning, run every day. And it just all worked out. Yep.
You you moved. You changed everything based on your love for sea swimming.
Pretty
The
much.
Irish
And
Sea.
then all fell into place.
I
'Cause
love
they were-
donuts,
they
but I
were
won't
giving out
move next to
about the-
Krispy Kremes.
But
My God,
phenomenal.
that is a commitment. Like that is, well,
Yeah.
I suppose, like
I have like,
if you want something, go get it, you know, and everything
Absolutely.
else will work out, I suppose, is it?
yeah, I'm all in or I'm all out. It's like the sea dipping. It's like the running, my training, my job, my lifestyle. You know what I mean? When I'm in, I'm in. It's like these races that even this year kind of trying to plan out stuff. And my goal is the podium. I'm going to do a few more IMRAs, a few big ones coming up. And yeah, I want to win.
K from 21 minutes down to 16:23, and now recently in Enfield you did 15:30. Just if someone had to be listening to this podcast that would love to someday break sub 20, and if he was talking to you right now, what advice would you give me?
Run faster.
How hard is it? Yeah, make your legs go quicker. It's not that hard. Just staying with the consistent training, but definitely doing speed work and doing your target time specific intervals. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to be trying to do a 20-minute 5K, that's 4-minute kilometers by 5. Go out, warm up easy for 10, 15 minutes, do kilometer repeats at that target pace, take a little break in between, a minute or 2 minutes off, jogging, and repeat that 5 times. And I just build up to that. I mean, if you're currently, say, a 21-minute 5K, if you're working at sub 4-minute pace for those 800 intervals or 1 kilometer intervals, it's only a matter of time. You just put them all together on race day, take a little gel beforehand and a double espresso and just put the head down. You know what I mean?
How is that suffering element for you when you're getting to those? I know everyone suffers no matter what ability they're at, but that 3K and the last 2K when they say that race really begins and you're going for, let's say that PB you got in Enfield, that 15:30 you got. How was those last 2K trying to hold on? And did you do a 5K straight or how did you tackle it?
To agony, lads. You just really are holding on for dear life. It's a very fast track, and there was a class field of athletes out there. Like loads of guys and girls were under 16 minutes. So just trying to hang on to that leading pack for as long as possible, and then just like taking it home. Do you know what I mean? I was under pressure at 3K. Like it started to slow up, and that's when you really need to like dig down and say, "Come on, you're after paying to be here. You're after driving all the way down from Dublin in the pissing rain to send it here. Like let's leave it all on the pitch and just putting the head down and getting stuck in, focusing on the breathing and leaving it all out there. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be coming with the last kilometer and feeling like you have too much in the tank. You want to be stumbling over the line in a 5K, especially.
You say focus on the breathing, running that fast. Are you talking about like 2 steps breathe in, 2 steps breathe out? Are you talking big deep breaths? What are you talking about there?
For me, in a 5K like that, you're operating at the highest, like you're all out from the start. So like I'm in and out through my mouth, like heavy the whole way. Not just as much air in as possible, as much carbon dioxide out as possible, and just focusing on the breathing. Step, 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 step. Keep an eye on the guy in front of you and just keep picking people off. And to be honest, for me, I wasn't looking at the watch. I was just going off pure effort for the whole thing. That works for me race-wise. It puts less pressure, I feel. Do you know what I mean? If you're looking at your paces and you're kind of like, oh, I'm off here, or I'm going a bit slow, or you feel like you're going too fast sometimes. Because I was kind of aiming for 16. I didn't think I'd do that with the 15:30. I think my previous PB was just under 50, just under 16, the Tom Brennan on New Year's Day. And I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think I was in PB shape, but just on the day, you're just not looking at the watch. You're going off effort, leaving it all out there and hanging on to faster lads than you.
I know that feeling all too well.
When you look at that, we always say, give me a marathon any day. Would you say the same over a 5K?
Well, the start of 2025, after doing Dublin last year, October gone, I was like, right, I'll focus on some shorter stuff and try and get the speed done for the start of the year. That's supposed to be over now, but like again, I'm really enjoying the slightly shorter stuff. 5s and 10s throughout the early part of the year on the Dublin City Half and the Westport Half Marathon. Focusing on the slightly shorter stuff, getting the speed up. When you say, would you rather a 5K or a marathon? I think I haven't decided yet what my favorite race distance is. I like short, but it's absolute agony. But it's a different kind of agony than a marathon. Do you know what I mean? Because I haven't ran natively long in a good while. Now, I will be towards the end of the year. I'm doing marathons again. So I need to start putting the longer runs in. But I think I prefer the slightly shorter stuff. 10 to 10K is nice distance. Half marathon's enjoyable as well. You're recovering a lot quicker and you can go straight back at it compared to the marathon, which is obviously a long old graft, you know yourself.
And you're never more tired than you recover quite quickly after your lessons, but for the week or so afterwards, you're like, oh, I'm tired mentally, physically. Yeah, you can do it, but you're just tired.
Yeah, the marathon does take a lot out of you for sure. Like it takes like after Dublin, I was like for 2 or 3 weeks. I was like, right, what's next? I had to like really gear myself up to do. I did like
easy
5K around Christmas time. Yeah.
Yeah, you kept yourself going. You did a race on Stevens' Day then, and then did another one New Year's Day. So you really kept it clean there over the holidays.
Yeah, I did. I had the Fields of Athenry 10K down in Galway. That's a brilliant race, actually. If anyone's thinking of doing that Stevens' Day, it's class. Very enjoyable course. The whole town is out. That was a 10K PB as well, which I was buzzing with. And then the 5K New Year's Day. Yeah, no, it's great fun. The racing is class. I'm really hooked on the whole day out with the racing. I like making the videos about the races. Again, as you said earlier on, the Dublin City Half Marathon video really gave me a reach online. Loads of new followers and stuff on the Instagram, and the TikTok with that video went really well. And it's when you get a video that goes like that. Sorry, I'm going slightly off topic here.
No, go ahead.
Reinforces, keep doing these videos, and like people reach out to you, like you guys reach out after that video and stuff like that, and people asking for coaching and stuff online, which is cool, and like brands and stuff getting in touch about sending you on protein powders and sending you out now a pair of runners. It's really fun. It's nice. It's enjoyable.
I ran loads of marathons with like headphones in, and I had to stop. You didn't hear what happened to me.
Did you learn the hard way not to run with headphones on?
Oh, lads, I had one of the worst experiences of my life. Right?
Oh, shoot!
He's getting the popcorn.
Why does this shit happen to me? Right, so we all went up the Lusk AC crowd. Right, they did a Gary O'Hanlon training plan. Right, and everyone was in really, really great shape going up to run Belfast. Right, this is a few years ago. This is about 3 or 4 years ago. And I was in good nick myself, do you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm going to go up here now, give this a good rattle, you know? And grand, I was only at the buying a pair of AirPods, right? So I was like, have these fancy-ass AirPods. They're going in, I'm going to be listening to me tunes, right? Started running, got myself into this lovely flow state, right? I'm bouncing along, right? Everything was just going sweet. I was like, I don't know, PB could be on here, I don't know, but things are going great. Next thing, right, so the way I run is, right, I have the AirPods in, and I have one of those running belts, and I have the running belt turned around so that my phone is sitting into the small of my back, right? I'm running along anyway. I'm about 10 miles in, right, 16K, whatever, right? I'm bouncing along, right? Next thing, I hear this fucking dial tone in my ear, and I'm like, what's fucking going on here? The fuck? And I just hear the Northern Ireland accent. Emergency services. What's your emergency? And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Right? And I'd only bought the fucking AirPods like 4 days before. So I hadn't set them up properly. Right? So I hadn't set the settings up to that you could talk through the fucking things. Right? On that listening, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So I just kept on running, and she's like, emergency services. What's your emergency? What's your emergency? And I'm like, no emergency. Stop. Hang up. Next thing, she hangs up, right? And I was like, that was a bit mad, right? So I made it another 2K down the road or whatever. Phone goes again, ringing, right? And I'm not taking my belt off, and I'm not stopping for all this shit, right? I was the button was held down for the
Right.
call. So whatever happened, right? That call center dispatched a call to I think it was Dungannon, because that's what came up on the phone when I checked afterwards. A police station in Dungannon called me. This time it was a man. Emergency services. What is your emergency? Can you talk? And I'm like,
Say pineapple if you're in danger.
Right. And then this is the worst bit, right? So I didn't know whether, like, I didn't know that the AirPods weren't set up that you couldn't talk, right? So I'm running through
Oh, wow.
this. There's a water station. There's people everywhere, right? And me, all 6 foot fucking 4 of me, right? Shouting, no emergency! No emergency!
Shorts.
So then I start going like this. Maybe it's the command I've got wrong. So I start going, stop, 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 stop. And I was shouting like up into the sky, stop, stop. Imagine how bad I look to people.
Imagine how bad you sound to the emergency service. It's just some bloke screaming, stop.
Randomers all looking at me going, this spacer is just running a marathon shouting, stop.
Now,
You know.
you could have just turned your belt around and turned off your phone.
Do you know what happened?
Could
I
have avoided all this, Gary.
hit the wall like a ton of brick. The fucking head went after that. I tell you, that was the race was pretty much over at like 20k. I was like, oh Jesus, but that's it. Never again. The headphones
No
just
phones,
stay away.
no AirPods. When it comes to diet, how important is it to take on the right kind of diet? Where should people be going for information? Obviously, to you is one source of information, but how do we wade our way through what's true, what's not? For example, we're talking about, if I can give you one, intermittent fasting. You can find any amount of information online of how to fast while training. Is it better to train fasted or after carbs or all of this? But I can, in the space of 10 minutes, have contradictory information on absolutely everything.
Yeah.
How do we wade our way through the fake news as such? And how should people kind of look for the best information?
It's really hard, isn't it? Like there's so much, and I think like if you go on social media, be that Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, one week it's intermittent fasting, the next week it's keto, the next minute it's juice dieting, or there's a different fad all of the time. And I think that accounts for dieting strategies, but often say different supplements that we should be on, and it's an absolute minefield out there. And I think I certainly struggled with that when I was coming out of college, because although I had trained so hard to become a doctor, there was very little for me when I was in medical school regarding nutrition and regarding exercise and all of that. And that's why I suppose I went back and I did additional training in lifestyle medicine and sports nutrition, because like that, it's really hard to navigate the facts. We look and see, I look at kind of overall kind of what kind of calorie intake do I need over the course of the full day, and then breaking down to kind of what particular macronutrients, for example, that I might need for my specific size, gender, what sport and activity levels that I'm doing. And can I get what I need from whole foods, I suppose, as opposed to going maybe to different supplementations and things like that. I suppose I'm simple. I try and bring it back to basics. What calories do we need to support our training? What macronutrient breaking do we need from that? And then once we've that fitted in, is there any additional supplementation that I may need after that? So I'll kind of use evidence-based resources for that.
Just on that, Aisling, I'm going to use myself as an example here in this one. When it comes, obviously, we have macronutrients, protein's a big one for training. Like the easiest way I consume protein. So one of them you would see in like some supermarkets, it'd have like the protein yogurt kind of proteins where they've got like 20 grams of protein and stuff like that. And I'm a very easy person with my meals. So when I'm in the gym in the mornings, I've got like a half-hour break and I have a bit of granola and I have the protein yogurt in there with that, because I'm like, that's an easy way to get 20 grams. I'm getting some whole food. I'm getting a bit of breakfast. I'm getting a bit of calories in. The counter argument I've seen that lately is, I've seen two arguments to it. One, it's highly processed, the protein stuff, to get that 20 grams. They're saying, I don't know. They're saying a lot of these protein stuff are highly processed. There's no way. You shouldn't be having that. You should have Greek yogurt. I don't have the Greek yogurt because I don't want to open up, have some in the tub, and in 2-3 days later, and it's gone off. The reason I don't have milk in that in the morning, because I know, one, someone's going to drink it on me. Two, if I have any sort of sour milk on it, I'm like, a sour milk, I won't eat for days after that. It's just one of my biggest icks. So I have something that's easy for me to have. There's a word flat that's at the top of my tongue. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, I've got you, Sean. I've got
something
you.
that's very convenient to get that protein in, to get the calories in. So convenience versus high processed, and that's something I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of people talk about on social media on different ends. Where do you stand on that scale?
So I suppose I'm very much pro if we avoiding high processed food as much as we possibly can. But when we look at the practicalities of that, you know, getting the high volume of protein that we will need if we're training at a high intensity. For some people, that can be 1.5 grams per kilo of body weight would be general, but that can go up if you're training at a higher intensity. So for example, a 70 kg person may need 140 grams of protein, and that over the course of the day is huge. I suppose, first of all, what I'm trying to do is, can we break this down that we're having regular protein, for example, we'll use that protein, for example, we're having regular protein throughout the day so that we're keeping our stores full. And again, then we're looking at how can we fit this in. Ideally, we're going to aim for whole foods over highly processed foods. But certainly to try and get that level of protein in, it can be really, really hard without going to, you know, some processed foods, for example, like your whey protein and things like the packet. I think a balance is realistic, and we have to be realistic to people's lifestyles and what's affordable and what that they can fit into their dietary plan. So ideally whole foods, and if we need to supplement with maybe some processed foods then after that, but we do our best to kind of aim for whole foods as much as possible.
Why is train like a woman?
Train like a woman.
Have you ever trained with you, Sean?
If I say that, see, I knew he'd go with that. But if I say something like that out loud, train like a woman, I'm probably going to get a slap off a woman. But what does that mean when you have that in your social? I'm taking that your quote, by the way, to lead into your talk. That's not a. Eric, help me out here. I'm digging a hole.
Oh, you're doing, Sean. You're doing great. What was that you said again? Train like a.
So train like a woman. The reason that I suppose I think that's so important is because so much of the research in sports medicine, sports nutrition is based on male research. Why does that matter? I suppose females are different. We have changing hormonal fluctuations throughout the month, and I suppose our training demands are going to alter on that. Our female physiology matters, and there's as little as 6% of all research in sports is on female athletes. So I suppose that's where that's coming from, is that, you know, we really need to increase the amount of research and education in the area of female sports. So many females, particularly young girls, will drop out of sports in their teenage years and kind of going into their early 20s for a multitude of different reasons. And oftentimes it's not as supported as their male counterparts. So I think it's really important that we try and help keep our younger athletes and younger female athletes in sports for as long as we possibly can. We know the benefits of being involved in sports and community teams, etc. And I think trying to encourage our female athletes to stay in sport and also encourage kind of higher level research in female sports is really important.
Can I push on that a little bit? Another reason why ladies might leave sport is due to pregnancy. What should ladies be doing when it comes to training while pregnant? Because it's a question Sean has received, I don't know how many times, from clients who might be like, oh, should I be? Should I not be? What should I be doing? Obviously, research is not quite there. If we're only testing 6% of athletes, how many of them are we testing while pregnant? You know, it's myself and Sean have been passed out by a lady. I think she was about 8 months pregnant. She ran past us doing a marathon in our first one, which was a humbling moment for the two of us. But what is, I suppose, the do's and don'ts, and for ladies to consider of being involved in sport while pregnant?
Okay. Well, I think, first of all, being active and remaining active during pregnancy is really important. It can help with a number of things. I suppose it can help increase up and maintain, I suppose, our fitness throughout pregnancy. So going into labor and our postpartum recovery can be that little bit easier. Certainly it can help in regards to our sleep and things like discomfort that, you know, pregnant women will be absolutely familiar with, those back pain and pelvic pains as we progress through pregnancy. It can certainly assist with that. What I suppose I'm very mindful of is that if you have never been active before you're pregnant and you want to start becoming active, you need to do this in a very, very slowly and in conjunction with your doctor and with your physio to making sure that you're doing this safely. Okay. If you have been active before your pregnancy, certainly you can maintain your activity levels, but the exercises that I suppose that you may want to do may need to be adapted throughout the course of your pregnancy. Certain sports will be limited during your pregnancy, and again, that is going to be individualized. So you may need to speak to your doctor or obstetrician in regards to that. The big message is, I suppose, don't bump the bump. Okay, so we don't want to be on our tummies. Okay.
And from that as well, some people, yeah, no, it's absolutely excellent. It might make sense to someone who's listening. Sean is looking at us like I've no idea what this means, but it's when we look at. There's another thing as well, because we're talking about amateur athletes from any age up, and I suppose it's another aspect. You hear a lot of people say, this one kind of annoys me. I'm getting old. I'm not able for this kind of stuff. Whereas actual studies say endurance athletes actually peak a lot later. They get a lot better than that. How I want.
So the
I
swimmers,
think I know
yeah,
the
is that it,
answer.
Eric?
Yeah. Sean is older than me. So how old is too old to start? And I think I know the answer, but how should people think about it?
I don't think you're ever too old to start. Never. Certainly for me, when I started getting into this area as a junior doctor, I got so interested in seeing, like, I was working in the hospital at the time, and I got so interested in seeing patients who were suffering from different medical conditions, and how people who had been very active, I suppose, before becoming unwell and being admitted into hospital, if they were very active, their recovery was much quicker. Whereas those people that perhaps weren't as active, or maybe a little bit more frail, their recovery was often a lot longer. And you could see how work with physiotherapists and increasing up a person's exercise capacity could really help improve their overall health outcomes. And it was one of the areas that really got me interested in lifestyle medicine to start off with, and how we move, how we eat, and how we recover can massively impact on our health now, but I suppose our health outcomes. So for me, you're never too old to start, but sometimes we need a little bit of help to guide us in that.
Well, it is growing that there's a lot of races. There's nearly too many races because you can't do them all. It's not like running a 10K where you just a quick recovery. Now, the first Anglo-Celtic Plate that happened in 1995, and that was over in England. We had three male athletes, one female athlete running that. So we did have these races back then. The first 24-hour race happened in Ireland. It was down Tullamore back in 1985. But there wasn't the demand. There were only 3 or 4 athletes in that. Again, the same girl who ran that, she ran the first Anglo-Celtic Plate. So there was kind of a hardcore element back then. We had some really, really good runners, I think, who didn't get the opportunity to, I suppose, join in the same way as some of the athletes are now, because it was unknown. Tony Mangan, who still holds the world record for 48 hours indoors. I think he was the only person who ever ran over 200 kilometers as his 2 24-hour splits. So he ran over 400 kilometers in 48 hours. That's a world record, and that still stands. So, yeah, we had the Anglo-Celtic Plate started back in 1995, and we had teams taking part in these races back then when nobody knew about them. And the first I heard of the Anglo-Celtic Plate was 2009. It happened in Galway. But Richard Donovan, he took over the ultra running to try and inject a bit of money into it and trying to get the team more professional. And coincidentally, Anthony Lee was at that same race, and that's where we met. Well, we went to school together, but we were in different years. But he recognised me from that race. We got chatting. We did that race, and then it was soon after that, I think around 2009, when Richard Donovan was found Ultra Running Ireland, that then ultra running started to pick up a bit then. But then it got taken over by Athletics Ireland in 2012, I think it was. And it just wasn't funded in the same way. So there was kind of a bit of a dip in performances. The Anglo-Celtic Plate wasn't supported in the same way. And it's only now that I think just before COVID, we had a lot of runners that were running beyond 240K in 24 hours. The women were getting close to 220, but then COVID kicked in. Things went a bit backwards. So we're now trying to progress it. But the Donaghadee 50K has gone from strength to strength. And the unusual thing about that race is it didn't set out to be a race, and it didn't set out to be as big a race as it is. It just evolved. It was the right kind of an atmosphere. And it started to, because there weren't a lot of events on, this was an opportunity for people to, try an ultra distance race. And yeah, it has just grown. It's one of the success stories. I think that's kind of feeding into some of the other stuff now.
So the one thing you did say near the start there was there's one way too many races, but you can't race them all. And the demand for these races is there a point, and just pre-COVID, come back into COVID, did you think that more people are signing up for these things now? Because like you only have so many people that are near the top end, the 220 kilometers and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of people that would just do these races, be doing them now, that never would have dreamed of doing a half marathon. Dublin recently, 12,500 people spending 80 quid to a half marathon, with 75 quid to a half marathon. In your opinion, what do you see this huge increase of demand for these races are?
Yeah, well, it's a hard one to say. Well, you know, a lot of it is commercial. You know, there's a lot of people trying to, because it's popular and trail running is popular, just trying to make a few bob. There's nothing wrong with that. If it kind of dilutes it, and then we don't have the same kind of quality of athlete coming through, and that, now ideally it would be great to have a 100k race in Ireland, which we don't have. Our 100k national championship last year was part of the Anglo-Celtic Plate in Scotland, because the best 100k runners will be over there. There's athletes from Northern Ireland. If you're part of a club in Northern Ireland, you're eligible for the Athletics Ireland National Championships. So the best runners from Northern Ireland and the best runners from Ireland will be eligible for the national championship. So because there's no race here, that's where we do it, and the same will happen again this year. But we need a 100k race. But 100k is a difficult distance. There's not, commercially there might not be a lot of money to be made in it. So it's harder to get somebody to actually put one on, and you won't get as many people kind of interested in that. A trail race of 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers might seem a bit more attractive because of the scenery and all that, and everything else that goes with it. It's kind of trail running is a bit more trendy, but you're not going to get somebody who's at the standard to be representing that European and world level. And really, to grow the sport, we need to be competing on a world stage. We have some fantastic athletes, but we don't have teams to actually allow them to shine.
Well, hopefully Anto doesn't hear 20 laps and F off now. So for doing a T for 100k.